Good morning. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening to all the connected guests. It's a real pleasure. I'm very excited, a little bit nervous, to be honest, to be here today. But this is the day. And I have two big challenges this morning. The first is to open after Minister Barrot, who I think he said in a very condensed way all I wanted to say. So my personal thanks to the Minister. And the second is I have to stay in 15 minutes. And for those who know me, that's going to be a real challenge. Because I like talking about Gaia-X. And so that's a good thing. So I'll do my best, promise. So I don't have the slides here. I know them by heart. So the future of European digital ecosystems. What are we talking about? We're talking about data economy. What is data economy? Who is impacted by data economy? Do you believe there is any specific sector that is impacted and others less impacted? The answer is a clear no. Everyone, every sector is impacted. And the data economy is nothing more than the transformation of, let me say, natural ecosystems, economical ecosystems, political ecosystems into digital ecosystems, thanks to the data spaces. Data spaces are the digitalization of value chain. That's what we do at Gaia-X, that's what everybody does. And even the European Commission and the European Union have understood that this is the strategy. For those of you that want to know what is Europe doing about digital, well, some of you may know that probably Europe has not been so successful in defining industrial policies in the last decade or so. Well, I tell you one thing. The digital strategy is an industrial policy, and one of the strongest I have seen, but it addresses a new type of industry, which is totally horizontal. It's the data industry. European strategy is based on two pillars. On the top left side, the objective is to create common European data spaces, which are based on the exchange of good quality data, according to commonly agreed upon rules, and fair rules in line with European principles. Fair enough. But to do that, you need trustworthy infrastructures, and you need a new generation of infrastructures that implement this computing continuum. In other words, the 5G and the connectivity of the 8G, whatever will come, will not be sufficient unless we create a new fabric of technology that connects the cloud to the edge. Well, if you look at Gaia-X, what we do is basically on one side, enabling the creation of common data spaces, and on the other side, the creation of common infrastructures based on a principle of trust, where by trust we mean transparency, controllability, and interoperability of platforms. So Gaia-X is a totally private initiative, totally in line with European strategy, totally in line with the objectives of Europe to create a flourishing data economy. Why Gaia-X? Well, let's look at the opportunities and the threats. On the top side of this slide, you see the opportunities. There is a market of software as a service growing 20–30% year over year. So it's substantial. There is, edge computing is the next big thing. You see the volumes. All the investments, not just in Europe, are going on the edge. Of course, IoT has enabled a new generation and new opportunities for any sector. And there is a demand for any sector to have interoperable, transparent, controllable platforms in order to adopt widely the digital and transform their business processes and build new products and new services, value-added services driven by data. But look at the top left, the bottom left side of the slide. This is the position of Europe in the worldwide market of data platforms. This is a report from Gartner a couple of years ago. Still, the situation is the same. So we own just 4% of the market share. Actually, this is the market capitalization of data infrastructure companies, but the data is pretty much reliable. On the right bottom side, you see the trend of cloud. That's quite interesting. What happened in the last 3 years, 4 years? The business volume, the market, the total addressable market of cloud tripled from 2 to 6 billions. And if you count, this is just private cloud and virtual private cloud, so just the infrastructure as a service layer. If you consider the platform as a service and the software as a service, it goes up to 20 billions. So the good news is the market tripled. The bad news, the market share of European cloud service provider dropped down from 26 to 15, 16%. So looking at 2025, so the day after tomorrow, not 30 years, not 20 years, not 10 years, what is going to happen? It's a clear trend. European cloud service provider will decline below 10%. Is it a good thing or a bad thing? It's a thing. We need to be aware of that. And the total addressable market of the European economy is going to be more than 10% of the European GDP. But also, we need to consider that our footprint in Europe is very much driven by small, medium business. 80% of our economy is made by fragmented players. So we must go into a federated model if we want to compete and survive. But let's look at the economy. Public services, private services, add-on services on any product or services will depend heavily on technology platforms. Some economists say that 50 to 70% of the price to market of the products will depend on data, directly or indirectly, which means the total value of the economy. Nonetheless, we have disjoint value chains because of our nature of fragmented European players and because, unfortunately, the players in the market have not yet understood and decided to make the move from a competitive approach into a coopetitive approach, a federated approach, because together they can do better. So we need to move into the creation of common data spaces if we want to be more effective in our processes and if we want to build new products and services on top of data. Last but not least, as you heard from the Minister Barrot, well, there is no political sovereignty without digital sovereignty, and there is no way to drive the industrial policies without political sovereignty. So all in all, we need to have trusted platforms in order to make this thing happen. It's not a matter of IT geeks, not anymore. This is our life, it's our future, our economy. So what is Gaia-X? In short, we have been established in 2021 as a privately funded, non-for-profit association. We bring together a community which is possibly one of the largest in the world, not just European, of different players from any sector that aim to achieve the same common objective: boost European data economy, enabling the creation of common data spaces in full alignment with European data strategy, and building an open, common standard for transparent, controllable, and interoperable data infrastructures. We are open to anyone, but we strongly funded on our European principle of transparency, human centricity, sovereignty, of course, and our ambition is to deliver an unprecedented opportunity for the development of data-driven business models. What we do and what we don't do. Gaia-X Association, the AESBL, the Association Internationale Sans But Lucratif, is a single place where we define what Gaia-X is. We are making this available to all. All we do is made available for the common good of everybody, but we are the unique, one of the qualification point of the Gaia-X compliance. And we are the authority to define what Gaia-X compliance means. But we are not delivering any service directly. We are not producing any hardware or software platform. We are non-competitive. We are non-commercial and pre-competitive organization. And the difference between the project and the association is pretty simple. The association is made by members that drive the project in terms of defining the architecture, the specification, and all you will see today of Gaia-X. But the services of Gaia-X will not be operated by the association. In simple words, what we do is three things. We develop specifications, we develop the code of those specifications, which is what we call the Gaia-X framework, and we also define labels to qualify the Gaia-X services. Today, we will go through these things once more, but you will touch with your hands, because today is the day that you will see Gaia-X up and running. In other words, we want to regain control of technology, moving from a model that is concentrated, proprietary, opaque, into a model that is open, transparent, and distributed. Why? Because data is distributed, so you need to be interoperable, and because we need trustworthy platforms in order to enable the economy. We don't need new technology. The technology we have today is extremely good. The problem is we're not using it. The level of uptake in Europe of cloud is below 26%. So we should ask us, what is the real problem? It's not the availability of technology. It's that technology is not being used. So we decided that we wanted to do Gaia-X because we want to connect these two ecosystems. The data ecosystem, basically the data below any domain ecosystem, but also across different domains, and the infrastructure ecosystems. Both of these ecosystems are fragmented in nature, and in order to build data economy, we need to join them together. The glue to join them together is made of this pie of 3 slices: data exchange, federation, and compliance. These 3 concepts are the basic concepts that allow the creation of federation, allow the trust of participants in a federation to trust each other and exchange data and build new services and new products based on data. Our compliance enables the trust. How? In 3 levels. We define rules that are verified through the trust framework that you will see in a while in a demo, and the trust framework verifies our compulsory rules. But we also provide optional rules, we call them the labels, where you can define your specific business rule set. But also, we let any federation to define their own governance rules. So it's a very flexible framework with, fundamentally compulsory rules and optional rules that allow for extensibility and total governance of the digital ecosystems. Also, Gaia-X framework. This is what you will see today. The Gaia-X framework is the ensemble of the things Gaia-X is doing, from specs to code. But we have a roadmap, and we have a model from vision to deployment. When we started, basically, we constituted working groups and committees. You see on the left side of the slide. They are working, and they were working, they are still working on the development of specification and the design, and they started the development of the Gaia-X framework. But then, we deliver these 3 set of assets, which are made of specifications and code, on the data exchange, on the federation, and on the compliance, on which all our members and non-members will be able to build their own solutions, making them Gaia-X compliant. But to make it happen, we need to transform these software components into a service that will allow the creation of Gaia-X compliance services. This service is what we call the Gaia-X Digital Clearinghouse. So basically, the clearinghouse is a node of execution of the services of those compliance components that we have developed. And in this way, we will have distributed, decentralized node, not operated by the association, where anybody can go to get the compliance, and in this way, we want to enable a Gaia-X market. So, what is the state of play? We had a 5-year plan. Last year was the setup year. We defined the specification. We started the development of the federation services, and we wanted to start the first projects. The first big project we started last year was Catena-X. Everybody, or most of you, should know it, and it's here today, and it will be a pleasure to have them on stage. But this year, we started developing, the code behind the specs. We started extending the federation services. We started a new federation service project funded by France, as the minister reminded earlier. And we extended the number of lighthouse projects. You see around here, you have 8 columns with 8 lighthouse projects. These are the front runners showing the market willingness to adopt Gaia-X. But the most interesting thing is what's going to happen next year. Next year is the year of the growth. It's work in progress. We are working to make sure that this clearinghouse to achieve compliance will be available by Q1. Actually, it will be available by the end of this year for restricted, adopters, which are the lighthouse projects. But that means that next year, everybody will be able to become Gaia-X compliant. And that means that we want to create a common catalog of Gaia-X services. You will see a demo today. It's a demo. But sure, this will become reality. And what we want to achieve by the end of the year is we want to make sure everybody puts Gaia-X into their procurement rules. This will create a demand, and users will start to become Gaia-X compliant. providers will start to become Gaia-X compliant, and users will be able to adopt Gaia-X compliant services. In this way, we can change the market. This was our objective and our strategy. We cannot force anyone, but we can convince this is the right thing to do only if we show how it works and we make it real. This is the Gaia-X framework we developed this year. It's a one-stop place. You can go on the website. Basically, maybe it's not so straightforward, but look at it. It's 3 columns: data exchange, federation, compliance, and 3 rows: functional specs, technical specs, code. Pretty easy, and you find all the assets there. If you want to know what the Gaia-X is, go there and browse. You can take a tour. This is the release plan. So you see the specs, the code, the components in a roadmap from last year to next year. And last but not least, as I said, the target is to have the first clearinghouse up and running to enable the adoption of the Gaia-X compliance rules, which is what the world is expecting. And this is going to happen in the next few months. We have 8 Lighthouse projects. So thank you to all the Lighthouse projects. One thing you have to remember, we don't fund them. We don't control them. This is market players deciding to get together, spend their own money to implement things they consider useful for their business, adopting Gaia-X. Our presence has increased. I'm not a big fan of marketing parameters, but 4,000 Twitter followers, 10,000 LinkedIn followers, 30 weekly press clips. You cannot imagine my work in reviewing all of them. We had 1 magazine, but 19 articles, which is a kind of a book more than a magazine. So quite a lot of work done to explain the world what Gaia-X is. Is this sufficient? No. It's a clear no. We need to do more. But I think we have built something really complex. So I invite all of you to spend some time to understand what we are. 360 members, 20 working groups, 2,000 people working all in the same direction for one mission. And we are expanding our hubs network. Yes, we are expanding also out of Europe. Internationalization has always been there. Is it a good thing? Yes. We are international by statutes. We are open to anyone. But the Gaia-X framework is adaptable. You know why? Because the Gaia-X is about sovereignty. We need our sovereignty, but we need to let everyone else to get their sovereignty. That's why we can adapt the Gaia-X framework. Also, digital is a global business. Value chains are borderless. There is no way we can be successful in the digital business just closing around the European borders. And extra EU hubs are welcome when they buy into the principles, when they are committed to the adoption of those principles, and when they testimony that Gaia-X is a real global initiative. Now, so with that said, the title was State of the Union. Well, Gaia-X actually puts together members from different types and different countries to produce common infrastructures, common data space for the common good of the economy, taking into account the regulation and overall for the society. So we are the European Union for data economy. With that said, I want to thank you again. I hope this was useful, and I invite you to follow the next sessions, which will be extremely interesting. Thank you very much.